Good morning, Reverend Walter here. Glad to have you on board. We've just gone live, so obviously when you go live on these things, it's not like instantly people connect. I know a number of you will start to see that live icon, and you might come on, you might not come on, but the beauty is this is live both on Facebook as well as on YouTube. If you're joining us on YouTube, remember to subscribe. That's always the song. Please subscribe and hit that notifications button, and click the bell so that you don't miss any notifications whenever we go with any recording. And then if you're on Facebook, if you're watching this later or if you're watching this now, I'll remind you again, we have a stars feature on my platform. So if you can remember and are kind enough, please, give us some stars. Those stars go a long way to giving a bit of money on the platform. Not much, but just a bit. And it's probably going to be able to help us buy bundles. We don't have that many numbers. So for those of you, like the one who's up watching now, a number of you are watching now, please remember to share this because it's such a powerful topic today. We're looking at a very powerful topic called childhood trauma, sexual abuse, and its impact on mental health. So please tag someone, remind somebody, tell somebody. Ladies who are going to be on the call, remember to share the live link on your networks if you're able to do so. Go on your networks and just share and say, hey guys, we're live, we're live, we're live, we're live. Share this on your own platforms as well, and that'll help a lot. So meantime, let's get straight into this baby. This particular broadcast today is prompted by an event that happened about almost 2 months ago of a well-known socialite in Zambia. Her name is Florence Solochi, I believe. And this particular lady had a bit of a breakdown that was very public. The challenge she has is that because of being an influencer, she has her numbers on the socials. Now, the problem or challenge with that kind of scenario is that if you've got your numbers on socials and then you have a breakdown like the one she had, it's a very public breakdown. And obviously that doesn't help because it then, further creates the stigma surrounding the whole idea of mental health. And another thing that's very interesting, one of my guests that you see on the side there, on your left side of the screen, sorry, right side of your screen, it's the right side of your screen, you will note that these, what's her name? She's at the bottom there, Trudy. Trudy is someone who was with us on the call last week. She not last week, about 3 weeks ago. And she had some really deep stuff to say about her experience. She shared some absolutely heart-wrenching, details about her own breakdown. And what was so interesting about that particular interview and the fact that we've been communicating with Trudy is that she was also able to indicate that she's got other friends, other colleagues that are working together, and they kind of have a community where they all support each other through these really traumatizing times when the breakdowns come through. And one of the things that amazed me in a sad but empathetic kind of way is when she mentioned that, even though, in fact, all the ladies you see on this platform, very amazing ladies, I'll introduce each one of them. One of the most interesting things I heard as we interacted in our group is they said, even though we may look like we have it all together, we may look all cool and powerful, we have our days. I said, really? Say, yep, we have our days. So what do you mean by you have your days? Then they told me that they have days when they still end up experiencing some heightened sense of what drew them and got them to break down in the first place. Of course, they are much better, right now because they got their act together. They're able to manage this condition well. But just the fact that they have their days, that was really touching to hear. And so today, I am so honored that I have all three here, and we're going to be going through some really interesting things. So what I'm going to do is have each one of them just kind of introduce themselves. I have their first names typed, which is great, but we're going to have each one kind of greet you and just, introduce themselves and their reason why they're on the platform. Ladies, I want to welcome all three of you. Thank you for taking your time. And by the way, to those of you watching, let me mention this. I want to really publicly honor these ladies for the courage to come out and talk. One of the things I've learned is that when you're a person like me, I'm considered controversial. I don't know why people say this guy is very controversial. The truth of the matter is that I'm not really controversial. I just have no fear of opinions. I don't care much. I'm grown enough to be comfortable with who I am in God, and I am not moved in the slightest by what people think about me. I have no care in the world because I care most about what my God thinks about me. I care most about what my spouse, my wife, and my immediate family think about me. I care most about what those in authority over my life and those who speak into my life think about me. Those are the voices I listen to. I don't listen to voices. So as a result, I am true to myself. So if there's something I don't like, I say it. Now, what I discovered is that a lot of people are afraid to do that. And that's why I'm to these ladies, because a lot of people are afraid to come out in the public or come out in the open and say, listen, I'm HIV positive, or listen, I suffer mental health breakdowns, listen, I'm bipolar, listen, I'm whatever. There are a lot of people. I'm a divorcee. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm a divorcee. I got divorced. A lot of people are afraid to come out with their flaws because then they feel somebody will judge me wrong, they'll see me wrong, what am I gonna do? And in many ways, I'll tell you this, that's the biggest trap holding back so many people, because then it actually causes worse. But I understand also that not everybody's wired like I am, not everybody's wired like these powerful ladies here with me that have the courage to come out and say, hey, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going through. You know, it's kind of like the alcoholics in Alcoholics Anonymous who say, hi, my name is Walter Mwambazi and I'm an alcoholic. Like, just to admit that, that's powerful, because most people never do. And that's why they remain bound. But I really commend these wonderful ladies. And so this is about them. I just wanted to give that preamble to let you understand why we're having this kind of show today. And so let me introduce each one of them, and they'll tell us why they're on the show today and what we have in store. So first and foremost, of course, my sister Trudy Kaumba. You know, Trudy is somebody I knew from many, many years back. I never had an idea that this lady went through a total meltdown. I was stunned to learn that from Pastor Alan. And so today she is not a stranger. She's back on the show. Trudy, you're most welcome to our show today. Please greet our viewers this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers. And you left out Fuller. I'm Trudy Kaumba Fuller.
Fuller, my apologies, ma'am.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm hoping that we are going to lift souls and will inspire many that are going through a lot mentally.
That's nice, Trudy. And also,
I would also want to say thank you to Melo Media. We want to say thank you to Melo Media for sponsoring our poster. We're so grateful.
Yes, no, they did a great job. I also have this amazing lady, Sharon. Looks very poised, very confident. Madam Sharon, please, a greeting to our people.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us, Reverend. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Sharon. I'm a crafter. I design and make jewelry using African fabric. And then I'm a mental health activist. I developed my passion for mental health after I went through a series of traumatic events in my life. So I'm living with a condition called PTSD. So I'm here to tell my story, and I hope I can inspire one or two people out there that are struggling with mental illness. I want them to know that they're not alone, and there's so many of us that are experiencing these things.
Amazing, Sharon. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here. And I'm meeting Annie for the first time, and amazing background story. But Annie, please, you're most welcome. Please greet our viewers and why you're here.
Thank you, Rev, for having me. Good morning, Facebook family. My name is Anne Chilembo. I'm a mental health survivor. I'm still surviving mental health, I can say. I was diagnosed with chronic depression and anxiety. So I'm a property consultant, and I'm a part-time DJ, and I'm a mental health activist with True Mental Health. So I hope that we will learn from each other and inspire others to come forth.
That's amazing, Annie. We really appreciate that and are glad that you're here with us. And so, maybe just to kind of kick the ball, I'll start with Trudy. She'll just come in just to give a bit of a background to what we want to achieve today. And then, obviously, we'll get into each one's story. Trudy gave us a very detailed story last time. So, Trudy, you just help us to kind of like draw in the two ladies. And I think the most powerful point will be how you connected to both. And then from there, maybe Sharon, you'll then come in. I will invite you through. You tell your story. Feel free. Don't be held by time. Just speak freely. I don't want to interrupt your talk. And same with Annie. So Trudy, maybe a bit of a background to this and how these two ladies come in, because these are introduced to me by yourself. Trudy, maybe you can pick it up from there.
Okay, so after I gained my sanity back, Sharon and I knew Sharon first before I knew Anne, and we come a long way from our fashion days. She's a fashion designer and a crafter, so we used to work together way back. So after some time, we lost contact, and years passed. She got married, and I also went doing my own things. After that, after some years, we reconnected, and we discovered that we had something in common, which was mental health. And she had a mental health disorder, and I had a mental health illness which I was battling with at the time. And before that, it would just be encouraging each other here and there, and then we came up with a support group of we are about 56 now, and these are people living with different kinds of mental health conditions. Some have disorders, some have mental illnesses, and we just support one another. If someone is having a bad day like that, we encourage them, and if they need to be on medication, we also encourage them to be on medication. So, cut a very long story short, Sharon and I come a long way, and that's how we found ourselves in the mental health support group. And apart from that, we also share a passion in fashion, so we do certain things together. And I was introduced to Annie by Sharon. And what happens in the group, in the mental health group, we are linked differently. So I would know Sharon, Sharon knows Annie, Annie knows someone else. So like that, and that's how we've been growing our group like that. So we are linked differently, and God just brings us together.
Okay, great, great. So let me then take advantage and just have Sharon come through. Sharon, maybe you can walk us through your story. PTSD, from my little I know, is post-traumatic stress disorder. And I understand it normally from the angle of individuals that have gone through a very traumatizing experience. Usually it would be war, it could be very abusive relationships, especially as a child, maybe formative years. I mean, everybody has different experiences. Sometimes even just an accident. I mean, somebody could go through an accident and certain horrible things happen in that incident, and then they now suffer PTSD. So, and everybody takes these things differently. So maybe you could share more your story and what were the worst things it did to you in terms of your life, and then how. Maybe let's go up to there before we get to the recovery. Like, what were how did what events led to that, and what were the worst manifestations of it for you?
Okay, so like I said that this started after I experienced a series of traumatic events. So I've been experiencing this for 2 years. This is my third year now. So it has not been an easy journey. This started, the last time I ever felt normal was two years ago. That was sometime in 2022. I was in hospital, I was pregnant, and then I'd just gone for antenatal. And then, as the doctor was examining me, she discovered that I was miscarrying, and I didn't even know that I was miscarrying. So the doctor suggested that because she said she needed to put a suture, but there was no suture. So the baby was coming out, and then the doctor said it couldn't survive. So yeah, I went on and had a miscarriage, and then after that, I was in hospital, and I just experienced fever and a terrible headache. And I started feeling, my heart started racing. I had no idea what was happening with me. So when I told the doctor the way I was feeling, they did some tests, and then they told me that I had meningitis. So just upon hearing the news, I just went numb. I just became numb. Like I felt like I was dying. So after some time, I could hear people crying. So I thought I died at that moment. I could hear people crying. My mom, my late husband also was crying. And minutes later, I saw the doctors coming, putting machines all over me. And I was just numb, like I couldn't respond. So after like 10 minutes, I became well again. And I asked the doctors, like what was happening. And they still told me it was just effects of the meningitis. So they talked about lumbar punctures. And, these lumbar punctures are things that we fear a lot.
Yeah, they have a bit of a they have a bit of a negative reputation, unfortunately.
Yes. So that also like contributed to the fear and shock, because I was just thinking to myself that I just lost a baby, and then I've just been diagnosed with meningitis, and then the next thing I have to go through these lumbar punctures. So I was removed from that facility where I was, which I will not mention, and then I went to UTH. So when I got to UTH, they did their own tests, and then they discovered that there was no meningitis. So I was wrongly misdiagnosed with meningitis. So, but they went ahead and did the lumbar punctures anyway. By the way, I had 5 of them, and every other time they did them, it was just a very traumatic. It was a very traumatic experience for me. So every time they did the lumbar puncture, I would always think that I was dying. So I would think it was the end of me.
Sorry, just to come in there. Those lumbar punctures, were they all in like a short period of time, or was it like every day they came back? No, we didn't get enough fluid, we're coming back. Like, what was the period between the first and the fifth one?
Okay, so the first one, because they said the meningitis had come out positive at the first time I was at the other facility. So they did the first lumbar puncture, and then everything was okay. Blood test, everything, CT scan was okay. So what happened was the following day after I did the first lumbar puncture, I had a very stiff neck. Like I had this headache that would like really be bad when I stand. I would only feel better when I lie down. So they told me that I had intracranial pressure. I don't know if that's the correct term, intracranial pressure, yeah. So they said they needed to do another lumbar puncture. So they did another lumbar puncture, but still the headache didn't improve. It only got worse. So after a few days, I became well, and then I was discharged from hospital. And then I started having panic attacks. Like from nowhere, I would just be sitting, and then my heart would be racing. I would feel like I'm dying, and then I would get tension in my back. I would get headaches. And this used to happen a lot, like in the middle of the night. I would just wake up sweating, and I didn't know what was happening with me. So I would always go to the hospital. Whenever they did test, everything was coming out normal. So at first I thought it was spiritual, not until I came across panic attacks. So when I read about panic attacks, I went to see a psychologist at Chainama Hospital, and then I just explained the whole.
Just there. Sorry to be breaking in, but there are just things that you've said which I think is so critical. I want to pick that up. When Trudy told her story, she also indicated that in the beginning there was that assumption that it was demonic, and for her it was so sad because they actually said so, and then to make it worse, because of her condition, she was also kind of like fueling it. No, yes, they're trying to attack me. Yes, people are sending hexes. And so then you had this terrible tangent where, you know, they went off into the spiritual side, when in reality the problem was nothing to do with spirituality, but it was taken up. So it's interesting. I mentioned that, Sharon, because you say the same thing. You say, at first I thought it was spiritual. That's really interesting, because I think there's a lot of people right now that have been, for lack of a better word, misdiagnosed, and they are pursuing this spiritual thing, when in reality their problem is probably what you're saying. I will come back to that, but I just thought that's a very interesting point to raise, because I think the challenge with mental illness is it's very easily spiritualized, and I think there's a lot of people suffering mental illness who are actually who are suffering mental illness but being misdiagnosed as suffering from demonic attacks, and so they keep going the wrong way. And I can imagine the implications, and maybe that's the reason why it doesn't seem like those demons are going away. Sorry to have interrupted, Sharon. Please continue, unless you want to add something to that.
Well, I'll add something to that. Yeah, this is something that because you know, mental illness is linked to witchcraft. So I'm going to come to that. Let me just finish what I have to say. So yes, so I went to see a psychiatrist at Chainama Hospital, and then I just explained everything that happened to me. You know, within a short period of time, I said, okay, this is what happened to me, and then he told me that I had post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's why I want to talk about, you know, when we have patients in hospital being discharged, I think it's important for them to go through psychiatry, because mentally I was not prepared for everything that I was going through. Okay, this is something that just happened I didn't expect it, but I think at the end of after being discharged, I think it was important for me to go through counseling, but then I did not go through counseling. So, and then I had no idea about mental illnesses. So everything that was happening to me was just piling up. You know, it's like you're blowing a balloon. When you keep blowing a balloon, in the end, it's going to burst. Because I was having this problem that was invisible. Like every time I was doing blood tests, I was going to different hospitals, everything was just coming back normal. So it was very frustrating for me. So I was put on medication, and then I took it for about a month. And well, I just dropped it. And then because of the same problem that I had on mental illness, my husband then was staying in Luapula. So I would remain here in Lusaka and he would be in Luapula. So at some point I just said, okay, I'll have to go back and stay with my husband, because it's like this problem is here. So I need to learn to live with it. So yes. So in September 2022, I went to join my husband in Wapula. And then I think it was within 2 weeks, after I joined him there, he had left me home and told me that he went for work, and he didn't return. So my husband didn't return on that night. It was even difficult for me to sleep. His phones were off. And then the next morning, I was told that he had died. His body was just found in the bush. So that was also shocking to me. Like, you know, it was a very, very traumatic experience for me, because I was talking to this person. They told me they had just gone for work, and then the next thing I was told that he had died. So my panic attacks became really severe after that. So I've been living with this, like I've been on and off medication, and then I've also been doing therapy. And then I've just learned to accept my condition. So that's how I'm here today, because with everything that I experienced, sometimes I even question God to say, I wonder how I'm still alive, you know, like after experiencing all these things, even the lumbar punctures, because they were very traumatic and very painful. Because mental health is something that we don't talk about a lot. And that's why I even went on, and that's why doctors even went on and did those lumbar punctures, because I feel a lot of them don't understand mental illness. Because if one of them thought that, okay, this could be a psychological problem, I was not going to experience all those things, because all the time I'd go to the hospital with a headache and tension. They would just go straight into doing lumbar punctures. And every time they did those lumbar punctures, everything was coming out normal.
So do you feel that that is because there isn't adequately trained, experienced trauma doctors and nurses who can recognize the patterns well? Do you think that's the reason?
From my experience, yes, that's the case. And that's why
Very.
mental health we discuss frequently because of the same things, like I said earlier, it's something that is linked to witchcraft, and then other people think it's just attention seeking. There could be a lot of people out there that are experiencing these symptoms, but they think it's demonic. And that's why people are abusing substances, because they are trying to run away from those feelings that they're
So they
having.
are coping. It's their coping mechanism, and so they go to
Yes.
alcohol to try to silence those. Yeah, I agree. Oh, shame.
Yeah.
Sharon, we'll come back to you. Annie, pick it up.
Yes,
Just
sir.
go for it. Just go for it. I'll put my camera off briefly because I'm going to get my charger so that I connect. I've seen the warning for the battery, so let me just do that. But please pick it up, Annie, your background,
Okay.
your story, and just take it from there.
Okay, so I'm forced to have a cup of masala tea because I'm feeling so cold. So now, okay, my story I think it's a long story. I'll make it short. Okay, I had experienced 7 miscarriages, and my babies were dying in the womb between the months of 2 to 6 months, and I've experienced this for literally 7 years. So for the past, I would say since 2022, I think it got worse. The same issue that Sharon was talking about, where you go through a miscarriage and you're not cancelled, you are not you're not given therapy and whatnot, and also other childhood traumas that I felt within me, coupled with marital issues. When you are going through these issues of miscarriages, sometimes society tends to blame the woman most of the time, to say, you are the fault. It's your fault that this is happening. So now,
Yeah.
all those things piling up over the years, it's led to me going through a situation where all of a sudden I'm not interested in doing anything. I'm not interested in what I love passionately about. I don't have confidence to be around people. I don't have confidence to do something. So it just got worse over the time. Sometimes I would drink and I don't get drunk. And when I don't get drunk, I'll be very upset with myself. I'm like, I no longer get drunk the way I used to when I was a teenager. You know what I mean? When I was 18 or when I was 19, why am I not getting drunk? Not knowing that I was trying to have a coping mechanism. So it got worse, where I would go for prayers, I would go to different churches, and mostly men of God will tell you, no, it's demonic, we need to pray for you, you need to do this. And you keep on going for prayers, but you still feel the same. So my mood swings would be up and down, up and down. I would start something that I'm passionately about, but I would not be consistent. Struggled with finding food in comfort. I'm still struggling with it. Because remember, mental health is not something that you can treat overnight. It's a long process. It takes a lot of hard work. So there are times when I have those breakdowns. So last year, when I had my last miscarriage, because remember, the doctors were not telling me anything straight. They would tell me, no, it's your BP. So even when my BP was under control.
Sorry, Annie. Sorry, just wanted to clarify. How many miscarriages in total did you have? Oh, and what period are we talking about? Like in terms of
Okay.
years?
So I've had 7 miscarriages. Within the period, they happen within the months of 2 months to 6 months. So the babies just literally die in the womb. Excuse me. So at one point, I had my baby died at 6 months, and they were trying to rupture my membrane, because my water couldn't break for them to induce me and all that, for me to have the baby. They actually lost the needle in my uterus. And then they were trying to take it out alive. And I was like screaming. And then one of the doctors said, no, we need to sedate her. We can't continue doing that.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
made me sleep, and that's how they removed it. But all the experiences I've been having, they'll just tell me, no, keep on trying, it will get better. No, next time. But there was no proper like counseling that is given to women who are going through such. So back to where I had left, going through all those things, I just decided, I think that was last year, 2023. That was in August. It was getting worse because now I remember I had BP. BP was going up, and also I just had, I was shaking. My anxiety got worse. There are times when I would be washing the plates and I'll just start shaking. There are times when I start thinking of what I have for the day, I'll just start shaking. There are times when I'm interacting, the sector that we deal with, we interact with a lot of people. I'm interacting with somebody, and then maybe there's a conflict resolution that I need to do. Even when I know that I'm right and the person starts talking, I'll be defeated, I'll panic, and I'll start shivering. So my anxiety levels got worse. My depression levels got worse. I could not bath. There are times I would stay 2 days without bathing. And there are times when I would just want to eat after maybe 1 hour. I wouldn't concentrate. There are times when I will go and put my phone in the fridge and I'll start looking for my phone, and I will not know why I've gone to the fridge, and I'll start looking for my phone until when I ring it, I find it's in the fridge. So I decided, because my BP got very, very bad, I decided to say, no, you know what? Let me go and have it checked at UTH. I went there, I saw the doctor. The doctor said, is there more to it? Can you started asking me questions, like personal questions. And then I started answering him. And then he asked me, do you think you need to be referred to Clinic 6 for therapy? And then I said, yes. And then he wrote a letter. He wrote a note. And then I went there, and then I saw the doctor there, and then she said, wow, your BPs are high. We need to find a way of controlling, because I was not responding to medication at some point. Your BPs are high. And that was after my last miscarriage. That was last year. And then they referred me to there's a medical doctor under the psychiatric department, and there's the therapist herself. So they referred me to a therapist, and we started doing therapy. They put me on a sleeping medication because I couldn't sleep. I could stay even up to 04, just not sleeping. So I started with my sleeping medication. Then later on, after I started sleeping, they took me off my sleeping medication and put me on antidepressants, because you can't take the two at the same time. So I was put on antidepressants, and I was told to try and do health coping mechanisms. And I was told to also try and remove toxic people or toxic things in my life. So from that point up to now, I'm off medication, I think 2 months ago. So I've been off medication, and I am trying as much as possible to stay positive and to push through. But sometimes it's not easy, because issues of child bearing, mostly in our culture, they are put upon a woman. So even when you are having these medical challenges and miscarriages, the woman is put in the corner.
Yeah.
So that, I think, took a toll on me as well, because people don't know how it feels they remove your baby, and they tell you, oh, it was going to be a boy, it was going to be a girl. Because in total, I would have had 3 boys and because there were 3 boys and 4 girls. So imagine being shown a baby, how that feels, and you do not have even proper counseling or therapy. So for me, that has been my story. It's been a struggle, but I am getting there, one day at a time, with my support group, it has been easy. So, and I met Sharon is actually a childhood friend. We grew up in the same neighborhood. Her mom and my mom are good friends, and then we go to the same we went to the same Catholic church as kids. So we grew up in the same neighborhood. So when I saw her posting about the story for Trudy, I actually commented, and then we exchanged numbers. And then I inboxed her. I told her a bit. I said we need to meet. And then I told her my story, and here we are.
Wow. I'm telling you, I'm extremely moved by all you ladies and your stories because Trudy's story is also very touching. I mean, obviously, those watching today may not have heard, so maybe no, we'll just refer you to the other one because it's a very long and very touching story as well. You need to go on my page. I think if you remind me, Trudy, I will post your story. In fact, when one of you starts speaking, I'll just go look for it and post it because I've just remembered that you asked me this morning, Trudy. You said your husband wanted to watch the previous interview, so I have it on the chat. So I'll go there quickly, grab it, and post it here as we are going on. So those of you watching, you will see we will post Trudy's story. It's also extremely touching, just like the two ladies. Trudy, the challenge with hers is she totally lost her mind, like gone. Her mind was not there anymore. And so she literally was in that state. And you can imagine what that's like for those of you watching when you lose your mind at that level. But ladies, maybe what we can do now is each one of you, starting with Sharon, then I'll come back to Trudy. No, in fact, starting with Trudy, so that I cycle it. So I'll start with you, Trudy. Help people from your own personal level. And that's the question that will go to Sharon and Annie. What do you think were the major factors that brought you back to reality, one? And two, what anchors you right now? What is the thing that allows you not to drift off into that state? And I really identify with what Annie said, that she'd get to a point where she'd be drinking to try and silence the whole anxiety, panic attacks, and at the same time, and that's when Sharon talked about the panic attacks, of course. But even beyond that, the words, I'm just imagining the stigma that Annie has had to go through in families. And I'm not going to ask you, unless you're comfortable, to say whether these was all under one marriage or it was different relationships, but whatever the case in our culture, I must admit there's so much pressure on the woman. If there are no children, it's the woman. If there's all sorts of things, it must be the woman. I mean, and that alone definitely doesn't help. So, Trudy, maybe just start off by telling us, how did you come out of the darkness? Because it's a dark place people have been to. And there are many who have not survived. There are many who ended up saying, you know what, it's better I die. They drink doom or they go throw themselves off the Vic Falls, a very common method of killing themselves or something. And people go, oh my God, this person, surely, how could they commit suicide? But, how did you come out of that dark place and what are your anchors? And remember, ladies, that's the question. Huh? When I come to you, Sharon, when I come to you, Annie, what is your anchor? And sorry, I apologize to you, Annie. It is a cold day and you're sitting in that, whatever you're calling that thing you're sitting under. It's terrible. Sorry, I apologize. Over to you, Judy.
Pastor, anchor, what do you mean by anchor? I understand the first word. Me, I'm very learned, so I want to understand what you mean by anchor.
An anchor is like a harness. It's like something that keeps you, like when you have a boat, it gets to the port side. Normally, for it not to drift off, they drop that heavy metal thing. It goes and it holds. If it's like a small boat, they mangilila it to the shore, and that rope keeps that boat. So even if the water is doing whatever, it doesn't go anywhere. That's an anchor. So something that keeps you in reality. What was your anchor? So number one, how did you come out of the dark place? Number two, what is your anchor?
How did I come out of the dark place? The first thing I did was to accept my situation. Like I said, I went through a lot of trauma and a series of bad things happening to me. So I had to rewind my life. I literally sat myself down to rewind my life and look at the things that were happening to me. Then when I discovered these things were very negative, I tried to be positive. So those who know me from way back, I'm a person who always looks out for the best, even in bad situations. So I had to focus on the positive things that have happened in my life, and it helped me focus. It helped me realize I did not ask for bad things to happen to me; they just happened. So to really point at one thing and say this is a thing that brought me out of the dark place would be very difficult. But all I would say is that I became very positive, more positive than I was before I got mentally ill. So, for example, there are things that people would say like you got mentally ill because you slept with someone's husband. Others were saying she was about to go into Satanism and she felt so apart from the bad and negative things that had happened, I was still hearing things the time I was mentally ill. So I became I've become a very positive person that even if something befalls me right now, no matter how bad it is, I always look out for the positive side of things for me to have to hold ahead because I've realized being positive actually attracts a lot of good energy. And I used to feel this even the time I was sick. When I'm seated with negative people, I would feel this bad energy and it used to trigger episodes for me. So I enjoy being positive. So I would say positivity, the word of God, more especially the word of God, because there's nothing that has literally lifted me from the dark side apart from the word of God. I'm a person that believed the word of God even the time I was sick. I would give an example. There would be times whereby I would be hearing voices, negative voices speaking to me while I was sick. As you know, people with schizophrenia, there are times where you hear voices, and those voices you hear, they don't say nice things. They always say negative things and bad things about you. So I used to overcome negative thoughts with the word of God. So I would speak back when something drops in my head. If it's negative, I would speak back the word, and that's how I found my strength. So I literally knew how to fight back using the word of God. So how I came out of that dark place is the word. I use the word of God a lot, and it literally lifted me from the place where I was to where I am today, and I still do that even now. And when you say what anchors, me, I'll still say it's the word because I'm a person that has come to a point where I believe I can't live without the word of God. Anything I do is prayer. If I'm not praying, then I'm meditating on the word of God. And if I'm not meditating, then I'm just entertaining good thoughts. So I've learned to be careful with what I put inside myself because I've realized that what I feed my brain with actually gives birth to how I act, how I think, and how I just live my entire life. So the three things: the word, positive thought, and prayer. So these are some of the things that really help. Yes, someone would say medicine. Medicine helps, and self love also helped me because at some point when I was feeling so dehydrated in the soul, this is very difficult to explain, but there came a point in my life when I was feeling so dehydrated, not because I needed water or juice or any drink. I felt like my soul was so empty to a point where when someone just speaks anything about love or concern, when they just show me kindness, I'll be drawn to them. So I realized that self love is very important as well because I couldn't receive this love from outside. I grew up rejected in many ways. So
Oh my God, you just lost her there. I hope she'll
into
come back.
myself.
Let's see. Yes, just has a bad network. She'll come back, I'm sure. Oh, there you are. Okay, please continue.
So I learned also about self love because I realized there's so much you do for people, there's so much you do for family, there's so much you do for people you work with, and you do less for yourself. So I learned also to put myself first, and which has helped me a lot. It helped me come out of where I was because, like for example, right now my mental health comes first. whatever I do, I have to think of my mental health. I don't entertain toxic people. I don't entertain negativity. When I'm in a place and I'm just watching something I know it's not good for my mental health, I would not watch it. If I'm reading something I know it's not good for my mental health, I will not do it. So, i- all in all, I've learned to feed my soul with things I know that are beneficial to me. So, these are some of the things that are helping me and that have helped me.
Well said, Trudy. Well said. Extremely, extremely moving, and I'm especially moved by the fact that you know, for you, the word of God worked extremely powerfully. Let's hear from Sharon. Uh, what brought you out of that dark place? The shakes, the panic attacks, the trauma, the memory, the fear, all those things that you went through because of all that you went through. And what is anchoring you now? What is keeping you grounded, so to speak, without losing?
Um, okay, to start with, it's been a very difficult journey. It's been, especially that, people don't understand mental health because it's invisible. So it's something that you can't see. There's no scan or test that can show how the mind is working. So it's been very difficult even to convince my family, and friends sometimes. And I have so I
Okay, I'm
have
hearing
been.
some background noise. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's okay. You can mute your sounds, the rest of you, so that we just leave Sharon on and see how it goes. Continue, Sharon.
Okay, so this is how I found sunshine through the rain. I started therapy. I got a therapist who would also help me pray. So the Bible, the Word of God, has been very helpful because I always joke with my colleagues Judy and Annie. I say, if you're going through a mental illness, uzamuziba Yesu, and if for sure you will look for Him until you find Him because it's torture. It's a battle. Like you're fighting with your own mind. It's not an easy thing. So the Word of God has helped me, and also I cut off toxic people in my life. Like Trudy said, if you're experiencing a mental illness, it's best to cut off all toxic people. And also living positive, like you need to have a positive mindset. And also exercise has been helpful, and just change of lifestyle. I cut off alcohol. I used to drink, but these days when I take alcohol, I get to have severe anxiety. So I removed the alcohol part, and then also I've been hobbies. Though at some point I lost interest in everything that I used to do, my crafts, but now it's like I'm slowly getting back to the way I was. And socializing, I do like going out and spending time with family and friends. And yes, I think that's what has kept me going. That's how I found sunshine through the rain.
Nice, well said. We kept having that noise. So I don't know what it was. So I'm hoping it's maybe your mic or something. You can double check it. Annie, how did you come out of the dark place? How are you anchoring right now? What's your story?
Okay. With me, I first of all, God helped me come out of the dark place, and I realized that I have a purpose. Okay, and He still wants me to be here. There's a reason why I'm still standing. There's a reason why I'm still here. Some have died, some have prematurely, some have committed suicide. For me, I told myself, I said, okay, um, it's me now. I have to stand. I need to live for somebody out there who is going through the same things that I'm going through, or is actually going through a different type of challenge. So I realized that I have purpose. I need to get myself out of this. And God really, really helped me because I went also for therapy at Clinic 6 UTH. So I did my therapy and counseling, and I took my medication. That's what has really helped me. What anchors me is the word of God. and also my family. My mom is my support system. She's been very helpful, and that's why I'm here. Although I had to move out of my matrimonial home just to try and sort our issues and just try and find myself in the process. Yes.
Sorry, Annie, I'll just come in a bit there. You talked about your matrimonial home. Obviously, you don't have to get into any details you're not comfortable with, but walk us through what you have experienced. And by the way, so does that mean that all the 7 miscarriages were in that one marriage? Or
Yes,
did you?
yes.
Wow.
The same marriage, firsts and the same
Only.
marriage. All the 7 have been going through the same marriage.
Maybe
But
you
you
can
know,
help listeners
mhm.
understand what that felt like. What has that been like? What are some of the worst things you've had to deal with, and how are you coping? How are you managing that? Especially considering that you're not drinking, you're not taking any substances, from what you said. So how are you dealing with that?
um, for me, it's at first it was I was emotional. You know, when you have your first miscarriage, your second, your third, you're emotional. But the problem came in when I had my fourth, my fifth. Then I stopped being emotional. Now I started shutting down because it's like I was mentally exhausted and I lost hope. So it's been challenging because, as I mentioned, you know, society has it when you're going through miscarriages and you're losing babies. Society will pin that on you, especially in our society. They'll pin it on you. But in other developed countries, they'll say, okay, you know, we need both parties on board. Can we try this? Can we try that? So it was exhausting. It became very exhausting and lonely. It's been a very lonely battle because you they say two cannot move together unless they agree. So imagine where a situation where you're not agreeing and you are being blamed for the situation. It has been very traumatizing. And believe you me, Nigerian movies, some of those Nigerian movies you watch are real. They are real, believe you me. It was like a movie, a Nigerian movie. That's why now I don't even watch Nigerian movies because most of the things
Yeah.
they show are actually true stories, or some of them they recreate them, but they are true stories and then they just bring them out there. So it was traumatizing. And I told myself I need to put through. And every time I would go through this thing, I would tell myself I would need to go through. And it's not been easy because friends will laugh at you. Sometimes even family members, they'll mock you indirectly or directly. And you hear about it and you cry and break down.
Sorry, Anne. I just want to get that. When you say friends will mock you, like what statements would really get to you? I just want to understand that the psychology there, so
Yes,
that people know
sometimes
that some of the statements are hurtful.
sometimes you know you might be good friends with somebody, okay, and then they have children and you feel like, okay, those are also your children because they're
Yeah.
your friends children. But some friends will simply cut you off because they feel like you don't have children. For example, if you used to go to a birthday party, then all of a sudden they are no longer inviting you to your birthday party, and you're like wondering why. To say, why are they not inviting me to their kids' birthday party when I've always been there? And sometimes
Mm.
they'll just, they'll mock you indirectly. They'll just tell you, she's not serious, that one. She can just aenda ko asanga ko solution. But they don't know that you've literally done most of the tests that you can, and yes, you want to do a lot because remember these issues of childbearing and therapy in Zambia, they are expensive, and you don't have that
Good.
capacity, and they'll think you are just not being serious. Why are you having miscarriages? Well, no, it's not even supposed to happen. Yeah, you're not serious, and you'll be blamed for that. It's really torturing.
Yeah, it is. I hear you. So let's go, Trudy, back to you. Well, let's. I would like you to take this opportunity to just speak to someone who is going through this, and then you give them hope of what are the solutions, and of course, and I'm sure one of them also has been the community you have formed. But in your own words, all three of you, in your own words, what would you say to someone watching this and they're going through what you're going through? Over to you, Trudy. Trudy, you're muted.
Yeah, so trauma happens and you don't actually ask for things to happen to you. So some of it done to you, some of it just happens, and some of you just miss it. You know, something like, for example, someone dies, you didn't know someone would die, and then all of a sudden you're traumatized and you end up with a condition. I've seen people, even in our group, who after losing a loved one, they end up with maybe bipolar or something. So all I would want to say to someone going through trauma, you need to understand that and this feeling does not just come anyhow. You have to accept the situation that you have been through, and you have to understand that some of the things you went through are not your fault. You didn't ask for it, it just happened. So forgive yourself for being hard on yourself, and you need to change friends. For example, if you have toxic people around you, change friends. Do things that motivate you more, do things that bring out the best out of you more, and ensure that you are positive in everything you do, because when you're negative and when you surround yourself with negative people, it's very difficult to pull through mentally, because the energy very conducive for you. So ensure that you surround yourself with people that are positive minded and people that motivate you. Believe me, when you're with people that build you and understand you, it helps a lot. For me, I thank God for my family. My sisters have been there for me. They understand my mental health right now. When I'm not okay, they know I'm not okay. They ask what can they do to make my situation better. When I'm not feeling well, I'll tell them I'm not feeling well today. They know exactly what to do when things are not okay. And also, my husband is very helpful. Sometimes, even the relationships that you have, ensure that you have a partner that is bringing out the best out of you. Because some of the mental health that people go through, it also goes to who you are dating, who you are married to. You find that they don't put you in a good position mentally. So these are some of the things that you look out for. And the other thing I'd want to say is, let's be kind with one another. The good you do to someone help them be healthy mentally. Bad you do to someone, it actually affects them mentally, because when you don't know what you're saying to someone, if it's negative, it will go and rest somewhere in the subconscious. And these are some of the things that we need to look out for. So my encouragement to everyone is, let's stay in love, let's encourage one another, and ensure that we spread love more than anything, because love actually heals more than medicine.
Yeah. Well, that's very powerful support group. Very powerful. Sharon, what do you say
Um,
to somebody else?
so just to add on to what Trudy said, because Trudy has said it all, but I will just say something as well. You know, anyone can have a mental breakdown. So when you look at the case of Annie, I also go through the same thing of mockery, where people mock you. By the way, I've had 4 miscarriages and I still don't have a child. People mock if you don't have a child. People will mock you for being childless, but calamities can happen to anyone, and people should learn to understand that I did not apply to be childless, I did not apply to be a widow, it just happened to me. So anyone can go through a mental breakdown, so people should learn to be kind to one another, because they don't know what people are experiencing. And especially that, when you're in a situation that maybe they say don't judge a situation that you haven't been in. So people should learn to be kind, like I said, and also it's important also to seek help if you feel like maybe struggling mentally. I go to China. The problem is that there's a lot of stigma that surrounds mental health, and people don't want to seek help. So when you talk about China, the first thing that comes to their mind is the Mungo Funta. So it is important to seek help. You can go. There are lots of facilities. If people don't want to go to Chainama, there are other facilities that they can go to. So we learn to love one another and pray, and you should know that you're not alone in this situation. You know, there are lots of people that are experiencing these things. Sometimes even there are lots of people out there that are living in denial. You know, they're depressed, or maybe they're going through mental illnesses, but they're still in denial. So suicide is not a solution, and also substance abuse. So maybe people should learn to, instead of paying attention to getting well, because it's a gradual process, you know. It takes long, it takes time to heal. Like, you know, if you've experienced trauma, it takes a lot of time to heal. So instead of paying attention to when will I be okay, like every morning you wake up, I'm feeling this way, will I ever be okay? Maybe the best that people can do is look forward to something, you know. You wake up every morning and looking forward to doing something, or even just doing something for someone. That's something, you know. So people should know that they're not alone, and if anyone needs support, we are here. And I'm so grateful to my team, Trudy, Annie, and the others that I'm with in the group, True Mental Health Group. They've been very supportful, and sometimes I don't think I was even going to be if they were not there, because we support each other. You know, there are days where you feel very low, but when you talk to somebody, it really helps.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing, Sharon. I didn't know you had 4 miscarriages as well. I mean, that's terrible. So you're literally in the same boat with Anne. Only that Anne has 3 extra miscarriages on top of yours. But in terms of just having your heart put in a meat grinder and shredded every time, you know, you go through that, is certainly the identical experience. Very, very unfortunate. Annie, your words to somebody out there.
Okay, my words of encouragement to somebody out there is that they should know that mental health includes their emotional, psychological, and social well-being. So if these three are not in line, they should not be afraid or ashamed to seek help at these institutions. They can either go to Chainama or UTH at Clinic 6. Never give up. For me, I've started applying the 3 P's in my life. That is peace, purpose, and prosper. These are the things that I've started applying in my day-to-day life. Always, I tell myself positive affirmations. Try and tell yourself, find positive affirmations that you can be playing on a daily basis when you wake up, and also try and find positive coping mechanism. If you feel like you cannot maybe do therapy, because I know a lot of people are ashamed. Just a few days after I posted something on my WhatsApp status, a friend of mine inboxed me and asked me, I'll call you tomorrow. And then I followed up because he had replied regarding the interview we had at UNZA. So I followed up with him. I said, you wanted to talk to me about something, and then he asked me, do you offer therapy? I said, no, I'm a mental health survivor and I'm still surviving mental health. And then he said, and then I asked him, why are you asking? He says, no, I was just trying to find out. So never be too ashamed to come out in the open and say, look, I need help. For me, I would say I'm available with my team here. We can give emotional support. We can try and give you psychological support, but you should try as much as possible, seek the professional help. Be hopeful. Take one day at a time. Life is not easy, because even as you're going through this journey, there are times when you have relapses. There are times when I have relapses. The most focus is to get yourself up and continue pushing through the day.
Wow. Now, for sure, I mean, these things are not easy. And I mean, listening to your stories, guys, I mean, wow. For me, the only thing I can say, I mean, certainly I have no idea of what a mental breakdown looks or feels like. But all I have is empathy, because I empathize with your situation. I can sit here as a person and I can think and say, what would it be like, you know, if you had a sister, or what would it be like if you yourself as an individual found yourself in this situation? And so through these kind of fora where we can talk like this, not only am I learning and getting to a place of appreciation, but also somebody out there is learning. I've had the misfortune, fortune, whichever way you want to look at it, of having two very close relatives of mine go through bipolar, which is another mental condition. And bipolar is very weird because it starts to get worse as somebody gets to a certain age. And in the beginning, it's not so bad. There are individuals, I've seen two individuals I know who've managed their bipolar, and I believe it's because they have had to make sure they continue on the medication, because essentially you guys know very well that it's the spiking of hormones within the brain that causes all that hyperactivity. And so they have to take these drugs which suppress, you know, when they're on the up, they take a different drug. When they're on the down, they take a different drug, and they always have to be, you know, meeting their therapist, and the therapist checks them out. The relatives are also familiar with the situation. But there are so many also in the process who really, and you know what's interesting, ladies? It's interesting to have ladies on the call. Maybe you can give me your opinion as we wrap up. What is interesting is that the four people I know who've had bipolar, the two who died were women. That's so interesting. The two that died were women. The two survivors right now are men. And these men are now in their 50s going to their 60s. So, meaning they've literally lived their whole life as bipolars. And you can imagine going to Chainama, coming back, going to Chainama, coming back, you know, and then just managing their life through all that drama. The women just went down a path. And that's what makes me feel sad, because these were very successful women, extremely successful, no permission to name them, so I can't. But they were at the peak of their career. One of them rose to the level of CEO and, you know, high power woman, you know, and then went into government, was a minister there, then an ambassador. So she was very influential. The other one was a very, very pronounced businesswoman. But then they started to lose it, and they started doing things which made it very difficult for them to be kept. And what's sadder is that, like your experience, and so sorry about your experience, Sharon, with the death of your husband, but with Anne, the pressure, yours is different. But with my colleagues, what happened is with bipolar, one of the
I think we lost it.
Yeah, we lost it.
So the other thing, I think he'll come back. The other thing I'm trying to look at is the spiritual aspect of mental health. You know, a lot of people, I don't know about you guys, but I think there's a spiritual part to mental health, because there are some things that I experienced while I was sick. You know, like where you are able to foresee the future, and you are able to. There were days where I would feel like I'm in a trance, and something happens. Like I'll see the future through a trance, and it happens.
sorry, my internet went off, so I had to go back to the other one. Apologies. Yes, so sorry, ladies, and so sorry to the viewers, and we're literally winding up. Now, like I was saying, I'm sure you're saying something very interesting, but I want I would want your feedback to my statement, and then we close. And my point being, these ladies both were married, but unfortunately, the husbands couldn't stay with the women, because with bipolar, one of the saddest aspects of it is that when people are going through the hyper phase, there are two things they do which make it so difficult for anybody to hang around. Number one, they become promiscuous. They're hyperactive sexually, and they'll just sleep with anybody. And then number two, they get into mad debt. I don't even understand that part. I don't know if it's part of them just, whatever happens, but they go into debt. They are all over partying. You just hear, your wife, she's at Chicago's right now doing lap dances. What? I mean, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. So, and you can imagine how bad it is. So you have to go there and you have to get her and all the drama that goes with that. Sometimes you have to get the parents to come also. And then in this instance, also there are small children. So unfortunately, that became very difficult for both individuals because their husbands couldn't just come around. Every time, and one of them was also active in the political space. So you're just hearing that, when's another minister? When's another Dani Kuta? For us that what, Mama, and so they got into debt as well. Like I'm saying, all of them, that's the other component. They'll just go get loans. And the problem is, when you're talking to them, they look normal, right? They behave normal. So you can't tell Kuti Abbas very brain. So it's only that maybe sometimes, like in this particular case, one of the ladies, she was about to mortgage her parents' house and she had done the whole thing, all the papers were approved. They had even approved the loan. They were going to give her this money. And remember, she's coming from CEO level. So the people who don't know still see her as that CEO, so they don't know that something is going wrong. So one of the people in the bank then said, I know this lady's parents. The house in Rodsback. No, let me make a call. So that's how she calls the parents and says, I'm here with so-and-so. No, sorry. So-and-so was here, Vaenda, but I'm seeing, why are you putting your house on mortgage for China? Which house? Your house. No. And then, that's how that situation was blocked before Yaenda Nyumba. So, those are the challenges. And you can imagine you are a spouse to such a person. How do you manage? So in the end, the husbands just had to give up. And then from there, unfortunately, they both got sick, and then, because obviously they were sleeping around, so you know what I mean. Huh? So they got sick and they died. So the bipolar thing is so scary as well. And maybe I just wanted to hear your intake. I mean, none of you suffer anything remotely resembling bipolar, except maybe Trudy went through, something, not really similar.
I have schizophrenia. Yes. It's not similar. They are different, but some of the characteristics are a bit similar. So we are very different. Them when they are hyper for us, because for me, like for example, it started with depression. So I had severe depression. So it has to do with mood swings and whatnot. So I enter psychosis when I don't take care of myself. So there are certain things that I have monitored, which I don't allow myself to go through. Like I said, I don't allow toxism, if there's such a word. I avoid stress. I avoid depression. So also the medication that I take also helps me. So sometimes when you hear like the story are from telling, maybe they were not on medication, they were not following the
rules. They usually stop. That's the problem. Yes, they usually stop, and then you even if the husband or whoever is trying to tell them, please take no. So in the end, the experiences I've seen with the bipolar people, they end up being forcibly taken. Fairly similar to what happened with Solochi. They literally by force, then they are in the institution now being injected until Bachako calm down, then they can come back home. So yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, so we encourage people to be on medication. If you've not been told by the doctor to stop medication, don't stop medication because it's for your own good. And also, you need to master your condition. Like, I have mastered my condition. I know things that bring episodes, so I avoid them. As a result, I would say I'm safe because I'm taking precaution. Like I said, my mental health comes first. So anything that endangers my mental health is not welcome. So you have to look at the well-being of your mental health and ensure that you follow what works for you. So those people and other people who are not on medication should continue being on medication and ensure that you don't attract episodes.
Absolutely. Sharon, your feedback to my bipolar story.
Okay, so like Trudy says, our conditions are different. Mine is PTSD. So there are some things that I experience that she doesn't. Like for instance, I experience dissociation. I'll describe the feeling. So I feel like my surrounding is not real. I feel like I'm detached from reality. I feel like my brain has been covered with a blanket. And this is more on the severe side when I'm having an episode. So there are people like maybe Trudy, maybe she doesn't experience that, or Annie doesn't experience that. Yeah, so our conditions are different. But like Trudy said, people need to seek professional help. When the doctor gives you medication, sometimes this medication sometimes will have effects in the beginning, and then later it gets better, the condition gets better. So you're not supposed to stop medication. And especially when you stop taking your medication abruptly, it's a very big problem because you have a relapse. And also avoid, like for me, I avoid funerals. Funerals trigger me. Even up to now, I don't attend funerals because when I attend a funeral, I feel like I'm seeing my husband's funeral again. Because even when we had his first memorial, I felt like everything was happening all over again. So I had a terrible relapse. So anyone struggling with a mental illness, please seek professional help. And when you're put on medication, please stick to your medication. If you have to withdraw, don't do it on your own. Always consult the doctor.
Yeah. Well said, Sharon. Annie, your take.
Wow, your story is interesting. Okay. Your story is interesting, and I think that's why they say sometimes, life is spiritual. That's why they say that money cannot buy happiness, money cannot buy love. In reality, because the people that you have illustrated, they had it all, but they never had a peace of mind. Because when you are going through mental health, you you are not going to have a peace of mind. Believe you me. No person with mental health has a peace of mind. No, your brain is ever constantly going in different direction. If I draw on a paper, it goes north, west, east, in circles, diagonal, square, whatnot. Now imagine that kind of life. So now, for me, um, I would say that it's not easy. No matter how much you try and cover up and pretend, and also you need to find positive coping mechanisms. What are positive coping mechanisms? Things that you can love to do that will add value to your life.
Yeah.
So you try and find positive coping mechanisms, and unfortunately for the people you've illustrated, those were their coping mechanism. It's sad that they are no longer with us, but I think they had a persistent feeling of sadness and loneliness in them, which is quite sad because depression has got those characteristics where you feel constant sadness, and loneliness, and you lose interest in the things that you love.
Yeah.
So for me, just to wrap it up, I would just encourage people to come out, because I know of people who are in the high institution, certain people that are in the high institution, and they've got very big positions in this institution, but they have coping mechanisms such as abusive of alcohol.
Yeah.
And you find that the person 7 hours, 8 hours is at the bar, even sometimes knocking for the restaurant to open when most restaurants open at 10, 11, telling
Yeah.
the fighting with the guards, "Vulako, you want to ongena,"
Mm,
and he's parked his VX there and he wants to just come sit and start drinking because so it's sad. It's sad, and I would I'm calling upon all civil societies, private sectors, and these health institutions, if they can really try and make these services such as counseling and therapy very much accessible, because some of the institutions, the government institutions, when you go there, you are put on a waiting list. So you're told to come
Yeah.
back after 2 months. But now imagine your mind is haywire, your mind is
Mm.
everywhere. Now, Ruala, you're sick, you're out of this world, and you're being told to
Yeah.
come back after 2 months. So
Up
you
to two
find they only
months.
attend to you either when your BP is not under control or you've attempted suicide. They'll treat you now like as an emergency, which is quite sad. So let us be
Yeah.
kind. Let's move with a kind heart, with a kind smile, and let's help one another. Because I think as society we've lost the touch of Ubuntu. It's each one for himself and God for us all. And it's unfortunate that it has trickled down to families. There's no
Yeah.
Ubuntu-ness. Once they know that you are not okay, or your mother goes to tell and one of the relatives to say, "Look, hey, my daughter is going through this," you'll be a laughing stock. The whole family,
Unfor-
even other members of the family that were not in the equation, they will know about it, and their approach will be to laugh at you, to say, "Baja, banadwala, baja, asali bwino." Instead of reaching out to you and say, "Listen, I heard that this is what you're going through. Can we help? Where can I come in?" And just checking up on that person, because gone are the days when families used to eat from the same plate, or check
That's
up
true.
on each other, or sleep on the same bed. you know so I think we need to bring down, it all trickles down to family unit. We need to really go back to our roots as families and start from there.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
well said. And that makes a really phenomenal wrap up. I want to take the moment once more to thank these wonderful ladies for taking the time. Ladies, thank you for sharing your story. I'm so moved and motivated by that. To those of you watching, I hope you've learned something. If you can, share this video to similar people going through this. If you've got fora where you are dealing with different aspects of mental health, you can do the same. And ladies, I will ask you if you can afterwards to go into the comments on my page. You can and share contacts of those who may wish to reach out. Even just by commenting, they'll probably connect, and who knows. But that would be really really good, because then that network can grow. That group you're trying to run can grow. And remember, a problem shared, problem half solved, isn't it? So by you doing that, that will help someone. So from myself, Rev Walter, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us and being part of this. And if you're watching this after the recording, same thing, please share it and let somebody know that they're not alone, that there is people out there who are going through what you're going through, and you can reach out. You will be amazed what that can do for you. And so, ladies and everybody, thank you. Stay on the call briefly, but I am now disconnecting our viewers.